Thank you so much for taking your time and coming and blessing us with your wisdom. Can you tell us who you are, what you're about, and the amazing gifts that you offer the world?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Marsha. I'm Brittney. I go by B. I have a plethora of different businesses and different interests. I consider myself to be a multi-potentialite. So my first brand is Contained Stems. I specialize in the art of floral healing. I'm also a certified breathwork coach and specialize in mindfulness, and breath is at the center of all of our being. If we weren't breathing, we're not living. So I teach my clients how to breathe properly. And then my newest baby is BrittneyMcKinley.com. That is where I house all of my things that have to do with relationship and partnership journeys. That's where my book, Details of the Dangerous Woman, is held. It's 4 things to do after an uncoupling. I have my Dangerous Discussions podcast there and my deep discussions, which are our in person, either one on one or group connection collaboration sessions.
Thank you. Y'all, she is amazing, right? This is not the first time that I've had this interview. I'm going to be completely honest. I've interviewed her before and then I lost the recording. And so I just could not pass it up to interview her again. I've been telling so many people about, hey, I met this lovely person and they've healed themselves through flowers. They're like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like, no, 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 no. I can't wait to show you the interview. And then I was like looking through and I was like, oh shit, I don't have the fucking interview. So I want you to tell the audience a little bit about flowers, like just, and we're going to go through all the amazing things you do, but tell them about healing in that space. Talk to me a little bit about that. It's so orgasmic. Like when I've heard about it, just tell me a little bit about it. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah. Flowers are sacred, and literally, they are one of the things that has saved my life from a holistic standpoint, for sure. So, I started off in corporate America, and it just was not a good time. And it really it heightened my anxiety. For the first time, I felt myself be depressed for the first time. And I realized that corporate often pushes a work ethic agenda instead of a well being agenda. And so when I took a look at that, I was already practicing with flowers and designing. My partner at the time, he bought me flowers all the time, and I was just working with them and noticing for the first time how it made me feel to just design, even if it was for myself, and interact with the flowers, smell the scents, and just touch the stems, all of the things. And he encouraged me to launch my business, Contain Stems. But at the time, I wasn't ready. And so I went through 2 more months with corporate and it just was awful. And I continued to work with flowers during that time. And then I went full on in my business. But in that time, I spent a year realizing and connecting to where well being and floristry met together from a personal standpoint before I ever launched. And in that time, I worked with flowers in tandem with my normal practices. So breath work, yoga, meditation, and journaling. And what I found was that there is a connection to the way that flowers are in integration within our spaces beyond a consumption standpoint. They really do have healing properties, and it determines, from the specific species that they are. Like, for example, roses, they have the highest frequency of flowers. So a lot of people give them for special occasions that regard love, but it's because they're omitting that energy. And so I kept flowers in my space, and a lot of people go and put flowers automatically on their kitchen, table and living spaces. But they rarely touch the bedroom. They rarely touch the office and spaces where you can actually integrate and that you need flowers. So I started putting them in my baths, for example, and it was so relaxing and it almost felt very luxurious to do that for myself. And within that process, I felt my anxiety decrease, my depression went away. And it was also like using those in tandem with my practices that I already had, it strengthened that. And then I started studying about like the actual benefits and the research behind what flowers actually do for our brains and how they affect our limbic system and how they trigger serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine, all of those things. And it really works. And so I've been working with flowers in this way for 3 years now, over 3 years.
So can you tell your life story? Like go back to like flowers so people can understand that it just didn't derive from like, oh, my partner at the time told me to do this. But you told me a little story that it takes you back to
Mhm.
flowers. I want people to like feel that because I felt it.
My nana, her name was Rosetta, and we gardened with her. I'm from Milwaukee, so we would spend time in like the garden, actually hands in soil, understanding like the crop process. Essentially, she was from Alabama, and they have farms and land, and she taught that to us, me and my sister. And so during the evenings, we would tend to the garden, and we would actually like reap the benefits, watering the flowers that were on our property, and just like really taking that time. And then after we were done, we would sit. And then with my mom, we would make potpourri. So we would dry the flowers out together, and we would make potpourri. And just like even seeing the scent notes from a fresh flower to like a dried flower would change, and pressing them within the books. And so I've always had this special connection with flowers, especially roses. I feel like I do it for my nana. And a lot of it comes from what she taught us. And we had greenery all around our house when I was growing up, still do. But plants were a huge deal. And just seeing like how we were taught to water them, and taught to sing to them, and play music with them, all of those things. And then it all started to click. Like it came full circle when I launched my business, because it was like, yeah, like this helps it to thrive. And even with fresh flowers, although they're in vases and in containers, they're still living beings. I always tell people you don't take care of fresh flowers any differently than you take care of any other living being, including yourself, because some people have this ideology that fresh flowers die so easily. And it's like, no, you can get them to live. It's all about how you care for them, the energy that you bring them. If you're bringing them into your home and thinking that they're not going to die, they're not going to survive, then they're going to die,
Right.
because it starts within the mind. And then, if you start to take time while you're doing your flower maintenance and have a really good time with it, they do live. And me personally, it is, completely based on an individual's environment. I can make my fresh flowers last 4 weeks, and they still look good, and they're still blooming. And then I use them beyond their lifespan capacity, right? Because I put them in, my baths and foot soaks and face steams and all of that. So I have a deep, deep, deep reverence for not only flowers, but plant medicine, and have always grown up that way.
That is amazing. So, say somebody was coming to you, right? And they were interested, they listened to this and it resonated. What or how, right? How would you walk them through? Because I
Yeah.
think that when I'm telling people, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell you about this person. I can't wait for you to see the interview. They're like, what? And then other people are like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And I'm like, yes, check this
Yeah.
person out, right? So if somebody's listening to this video and they're like, I'm interested in healing in that space with that, right? Because sometimes, we've talked about this. Talk therapy is talk therapy. Like I
Yeah.
feel like it is ketchup to my French fries, right? Like it's a condiment. It's not something that I truly feel that it's just something, it's an appetizer. It's not the main,
Yeah.
um, Lordy, the main dish, the main course, a main course, right? I'm thinking, I just had a steak. Don't eat steak like that. I've been eating steak for like 3 days in a row. Clearly, my body needs it. But anyways, I digress. I digress. But I just think that talk therapy, when I think about your work and think about everything that you do, I think talk therapy, people are like, hey, I want to heal through talk therapy. I need to go to a counselor. And I'm not saying mental health therapy is not something people need, but
Mhm.
I love the approach that you use. And I love how dedicated and how you went 2 generations behind you. So that's 3 generations, right? And you didn't share, but I can only imagine that it goes further back, right?
For sure.
And that is a way of healing for you and your generation, your family system. So if somebody's interested in this, how do you walk them through? Like, what does that look like for them? And they have questions. What would that be?
Yeah. Well, first, I always preface any discussion that I'm having about flowers that says that it goes to mindful consumerism. right? Because typically when people think about flowers, and it's no fault of anyone's except the floristry industry, because the agenda that's being pushed is that you purchase flowers strictly just for occasions, that you purchase flowers for a purpose, like an event. In actuality, you're only purchasing those flowers because you think that they're beautiful. We don't need anybody else to tell us that flowers are beautiful. We get it. All humans get that. That's why we smile. That's why we're happy when we're around them. We need people that educate us about what they actually do for us beyond aesthetics, and not even compromising aesthetics, but beyond aesthetics. We want to talk about their benefits because it not only enhances mindful consumerism, but it actually gives you what the properties are for the flowers and why you're purchasing them in the first place. So it doesn't even have to be purchasing from a florist or a floral designer. If you want to work with flowers, step outside. Spend time in nature, because there are so many things that are blooming around you that if you just take note and go on a flower walk, you start to notice, the flowers that are blooming, what people have blooming in their yards and gardens and whatever your eyes can see. So it also brings in like this childlike approach to life. But if you want to work with me, I approach floristry from a therapy standpoint, because it has been that for me. It's been a very therapeutic journey for me, and it has healed me inside out. And there are so many ways that I work with flowers in my own personal life that I share with my community and with my clients. So I think working with me would consist of your understanding of flowers and your relationships with flowers, especially men, because there are so many men that come to me and be like, well, flowers are only for women. Who the hell told you that? Men deserve flowers too, and they're some of my favorite people to give flowers to, because it also brings a smile. It works the same way, it brings a smile to them and it makes them feel like worthy, valued. And then if you want to, I want to know your practices. What do you do now from a self-care, mental health, and emotional health standpoint where you feel like you can integrate flowers into that process? So if you do yoga, for example, I want you to line your flowers with your yoga mat and actually start to practice with them around you, and just notice in those moments of pausing between practices how you feel with flowers being in your space. If you meditate, color theory and color therapy is one of my favorite practices with my clients, because when you're practicing, you close your eyes and you come to what colors are in your space, right? So for example, I did this practice for the first time with flowers, and I will never forget it. So I was in my room and the color orange came up. And I was like, orange, what do I have in my room that's orange? I don't have anything in my room that's orange. Then I was like, oh, I have the orange book that is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That's an orange book. Right next to that book, though, I had orange lilies. And then I was like, those lilies. And then I just kind of sat with those lilies. I visualized those lilies and I felt calm. I felt at peace. Right. And then I started practicing with that a little bit more. And then I understood that that was connecting to my solar plexus. My solar plexus houses creativity. So that was allowing me to then get off the mat and then go create something, afterwards. And it was at a time where, again, I'm launching my business. I'm the blueprint for this. I don't have anyone that's showing me like this is exactly how it's supposed to be done. I'm the one that's doing that. And so after I did that, there were a lot of things in business from like the logistical standpoint, because I am a creative, that I was trying not to touch. But then after I took a moment to be like, okay, I can do this. Like I was in practice and now I can do this. It helped me to translate that back to my practice and come back to my practice. And anytime I felt a little sticky in like the logistical things that I was doing, I'm like, I got this. So it's all about how you approach it. And then I have a course that's called The Art of Floral Healing, where my clients can get certified as a floral energy specialist, because you're approaching it from working with flowers from an energetic standpoint. Right. And I always say like the terms working with, because it's reciprocal. Mm-hmm. Nature is alive. And so instead of using is very depleting. Right. And so verbiage is very important in that process too. But I do have a course where clients can either become certified as a floral energy specialist, or just kind of learn where they are in their journey and how to heal themselves within the process. It goes over everything from connecting to frequencies, which every single flower has, even us. And actually, roses are measured at 320 megahertz, whereas we're only measured at maybe, I think, like around like 70 megahertz, humans are. So the highest frequency closest to universal love measured at 528 megahertz. All of those things are relative. So really teaching my clients about that, and those who are interested in this journey, because I think that even with the new research that has started to come out, people are understanding that flowers have so many benefits and they can actually help you from a mental health and emotional health standpoint. And that's more so where my work lies.
That is amazing. Y'all hear that? Like, she is gifted, and I love the gifts and I love how you're using them. And
Thank
I
you.
think it's so dope. Like when you said, hey, use these flowers and line them around your yoga mat. I don't think people really think about that. I think people are like, "Oh, do I have my bolster? Do I have my blocks? Do I have my strat?" You know? But do people really think like, okay, and sometimes they'll put their crystals, right? But how many people really think about, let me put flowers along,
Yeah.
around my yoga mat, and even what that frequency is being put off, right? Like, if
Mhm.
they're in a community practice, we're feeling the frequency of other people in that space,
Yeah.
or even the music that's being played, or if there's sound, in terms of instruments. But I think that's so powerful with that. And because I want to highlight all the other things you do, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about, I know you're writing and all that. Like, talk to me a little bit about that.
Writing, writing, I have to attribute to my mother. When I was little, my mother bought me and my sister chicken noodle soup for the soul.
Mm.
And we had, journal practices. My mom's an intellect. So she's very much so, when we didn't have school, we still were doing homework at home and we were turning it into my mother. And anytime we had any type of like performance or talent show or anything, we were practicing in front of my mom, and writing pretty much stems from there. And so I had a journal when I was little, and I rarely wrote in that journal, often because I was always afraid that my mom would read my journal. And she never did, but it was just that fear of, I don't want her to read what I'm writing. I didn't feel free. And then I was in the same partnership that I was in around the time of me launching Contain Stems, was really triggering, and it was a trauma bond. He had been in my life for 10 plus years. And so we were towards the end of our partnership at that time, and I didn't even know it. But to really make sense of everything, I couldn't keep it within my mind anymore. I didn't feel like I could tell anybody, and I also didn't feel like I could do anything but write. So I just started writing out all of my thoughts. And I started November 18th, 2022. And I've been writing every single day since. I write something every single day, because essentially your thoughts are floating between your ears all day long, and you need to get them into paper. And so that stemmed from me writing in my journal consistently for a year, maybe straight. And then me uncoupling with that man, and then producing a book which was on the making of Contain Stems, called Love Note, or I'm sorry, Flowers with Benefits for Contain Stems. And then following that up with a poetry book called Love Notes, which was love notes to the universe, love notes to myself, and love notes to my love, which I had to finish that love notes to my love chapter after uncoupling with him. And it was a poetry book that was so hard for me to write, but I had so much love around me that I just had to tap into that love and the future love that I saw for myself, right? And then fast forwarding, so we uncoupled on my birthday, November 2023. And then a year later, almost, my sister went through an uncoupling as well. And I like to use the words uncoupling instead of breakup, because there was nothing about me broken.
Right.
So when my sister started going through her process, I realized that, oh, I can help you. Like, I've done this. I literally just did this. And then I started thinking about all of the things that I did within a year's time, and how much I healed myself, and how much I've elevated myself, and how much I've grown. And I was like, I'm going to put this in a book, because I actually have the tools.
Right.
And then I realized not only was it a guide for women and men as well, honestly, but I did it for women because women give so much of themselves in so many different situations, but especially in partnerships. And sometimes there is a big risk of losing themselves.
Right.
And so it was a reclamation of power. And it was also, I divided it into 4 different chapters, and it was about detoxification, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And then from there, I started my podcast, which is Dangerous Discussions, where I'm talking about all things love, life, relationship, and dating.
Right.
And then I wanted it in person because we are so tired of being online. I think I speak for everybody. We are so tired of being online. We need to be outside with each other and connecting, because that's all storytelling is. Storytelling is how we connect and relate to one another. And so Deep Discussions is literally just birthing that. And it just provides another platform because not everyone reads. Not everyone's going to read Details of a Dangerous Woman. Not everybody's going to listen to Dangerous Discussion. But if I can get you in real life, that's something different. And then you start to realize that we all have a story. And sometimes we have a story that we're not sharing and we need to share. And that story is essentially going to be healing you in that process. And so where I originally ended my partnership in 2023 on my birthday on the floor of LAX, I realized I thought that that was the end of my journey, but it was truly the evolution of my journey. And so I've evolved so much since then. So much has worked in my favor because that relationship and that partnership was essentially holding me back from everything that I'm fulfilling in my purpose present day.
Amazing. That's like, I think so many people are fearful of telling their journey. Like they'll tell their journey. They don't want to walk through that garden, right? They don't want to step on the flowers, right? They want to kind of tell it from a view of like, well, this is the garden. This was the lovely stuff, right? But in the garden, it's always lovely, no matter what it looks like. And
Yeah.
it's amazing to hear how you put that together. This is a part of my journey, and I had to go through this. I'm
Mhm.
playing. It's not, nothing's broken, right? You come to more of your authentic you, your truth.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, 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 amazing. And I'm so proud of you. I think it's beautiful. Yeah. Um, and so my question is this, right? If we think about, and I know you've talked about your clients, like if we think about these clients and all the gems that you've just given, right? And we think about just people who are listening to it, what
Mhm.
would be one thing, right? You've given all these lovely gems. What would be one thing that you would want them to walk away with from this conversation?
For sure. The one thing that I would want anyone listening to walk away from, no matter where they are in their journey, whatever they're doing in life, is to always come back to yourself because you are always home. No matter what's happening outside of you, no one can determine or design your life better than you can. There is no architect better than yourself for you. So don't ever let anyone influence your journey so much that it deters you from your own path. We all have our own journeys to walk. We all have our own purpose that whatever creator that you believe in has given you. And it's only up to you to fulfill that. No one else can do it for you. It's going to require, though, some sacrifice, determination, some devotion, and some discipline if you really want to get into it.
Yeah.
But it's worth every single step of the way. And those chapters that you feel like, I may not want to share, those are simply just a chapter in your story. And you also don't know when you're stepping into your purpose how many people you are inspiring behind you to step into theirs. So do it boldly, do it unapologetically, and do it authentically because it's going to not only heal you, but heal those around you as well.
Thank you. So where can people find the magical bee? Where can they find you?
You can find me online. So I have 2 websites, Contain Stems is all things floristry and breathwork. Then Brittney McKinley, BrittneyMckinley.com. That's going to house everything relationships, dating, and otherwise. And then you can find me on the socials too. It's BAlexism. So BEEALEXISMS. That's Instagram. Contain Stems is Instagram too. And yeah, you can always email me to, it is balexisms and at Gmail.
I thank you so much for coming on and taking time out of your busy schedule to bless us again. It was so amazing to reconnect and just I feel like we didn't miss a beat, right? And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anytime. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.